Affordable, quality, wide lenses are often harder to find than you might think. Wide lenses are just that little bit different. They're often fisheye, or there's distortion, vignetting, chromatic aberration. They tend to have a little bit more of a hard time just being easy and affordable and good for people that don't actually go about making lenses, just using them. On a normal production, you had a set of primes. It's probably somewhere around 14 or 16 would be the widest lens I feel like I'd be seeing used on a feature or higher end production. But that's not really at the price point most of us can afford, particularly not when you're just trying to start out. So the 11 to 16 has been in my personal kit for a long time. So I've got to go back into the cold to show a few scenarios where you can really get the most out of that wide field of view that I've come to really like, and show a few reasons why this lens is good besides it being affordable and really lightweight. This lens is also great for time-lapse shots. I prefer my time lapses to be with pretty wide perspectives, you know, really establishing and showing where you are. So I've come somewhere I don't actually like to be very much to demonstrate my visual point. Please, please come visit New York. We love when people visit. Just don't come here. It's not worth it. This shot is as good as it's gonna get. This lens is also really great for running up at buildings and getting super cool low wide angles on roller blades at Domino Park, which is a place I recommend much more than Times Square. Wide lenses and big camera moves just look really, really sweet. I'll show you one literally right now. I didn't push off enough. I should have pushed off more. You can see more examples when I did, you know, actually skate properly. How cool this combination of big camera moves and a really wide field of view can look, particularly when fast moving. It's interesting to see what you'd usually see at a walking pace much faster. And once I get this thing balanced, set up on a gimbal, I'll be able to unlock even more creative wides. Okay, so price. Is it one of those things that I told you in the beginning of the video? Yeah, it's really affordable. I actually meant that it's $2,000 instead of $4,000. That would be a trick. This is not a trick. This lens is actually only $400 new. And it's been always around that price since I've had it. I will admit, I had the first version of this lens back in the day, and I sold it off and thought I could find something better on the wide end as a prime. But ultimately, I came back to this newer version of the 11 to 16 and haven't really tried to replace it since. For a lens that has a consistent 2.8 aperture throughout and a zoom range of 11 to 16, it's a nice wide lens. It's a range that's really only good on the wide end of things or like unique stylized shots. This setup here is at 16 on the lens, and I find this a little bit weird for a talking head, but I wanted to be sure I was using the lens in the video. I was talking about the lens instead of holding it just like a prop. At 11, you can get super wides. At 16, you can get medium wides and occasionally a shot like this. Tokina also makes cinema lenses like the 11 to 20, which I really want to check out, but it is 10 times the price, roughly 8 or 10 times the price. But supposedly the optics are fairly similar, if not identical. It's just a lot of the housing that changes between a photo lens and a cinema lens. Is there vignetting when you pair this lens with the Komodo? Yes, there is, but only at the widest of this lens at 11 millimeters. Once you zoom in just past 12, I really had a hard time seeing any discernible vignetting. There's a little bit of distortion that has to be expected with a lens that's this wide, but the vignetting goes away really quickly, and to me, on a super wide, it's not really that big a problem. Particularly when I'm shooting with the Komodo, the frame is a little wider when I put it onto a 4K timeline, so by the time I've cropped in, I've already fixed that problem. Okay, but how's the autofocus on the Komodo? Not really something I would recommend using all that often. If I put it into autofocus mode, it does an okay job when I'm just setting it up here. Yeah, it finds it. I've moved the mic so that you'll hear it when it goes to hunt. But when my face is there, it does a better job of finding me and staying on me and not dancing around so much. But it's not something I'd rely on because, again, that sound, not that pleasing. Sure, that may not be a problem for you if you have your own separate sound operator, but it is just a little bit of a jarring thing. It hunts quite a bit in the autofocus mode. I trust it enough for a talking head situation like this where I'm quite close to camera, but anything involving a wider field of view and a background, this lens does not do a good job with the autofocus. but that's really not a deal breaker for me. I just leave it in manual mode and I have very little issue with pulling focus on this lens. So what's an alternative if I don't want to be adapting my lenses? There's a lot talked about crop factor and trying to figure out exactly what the field of view is and different modes and all the different sensor crops. It's a lot to figure out. And if you need to go that route, you can do all those mathematics if it's important for your production. But sometimes I feel like it's helpful to just see what the field of view difference looks like. So this is the Tokina 11-16 at 16 millimeters. I'm now going to show you behind the curtain a little more. When we zoom out, this is that same lens at 11 millimeters. Maybe the most comparable lens to me, or something that's at least really affordable, so you might think, wait, why can't I just use that lens? It's also 16 millimeter and is a little bit cheaper. That would be the RF mount Canon 16 2.8 STM lens. Here's what that one looks like with the camera moving not at all. This is the Canon lens, the 16 millimeter that is native to the mount on the Komodo. It is smaller, it is a little bit lighter, it is even cheaper. Why am I not recommending it first? Because of the image quality. I had a little bit more frequent problems with this one. Chromatic aberration popped up. The general just sharpness is not there for me. The contrast look of this lens is not, to me, as pleasing as the Tokina glass is. But if you do think the look of this lens is good for you and you want to check out more, I do have a whole video talking all about just this lens. And the mic is only there because I'm keeping continuity. Let's move the mic and go back to the other lens. So this lens is firmly in the yes, I recommend it section of all my various lenses that you may or may have not seen off to the side. And I went really wide there for a minute. There's way too many of them. But this one, the 18-35 from Sigma and the Canon 24-70, those are the lenses I seem to rely on most often for indie productions. When there's a more specific look that our project is trying to go for, we will rent or obtain other kinds of glass that complement that production. But if it's indie stuff, if it's gimbal work, if it's skate videos, if it's YouTube, I'm often using those types of zoom lenses that really border between having all the benefits of primes, lower apertures, and the focal length, just ability to not have to swap lenses when I want to get a wide shot. And I really am trying to prioritize having fun when I shoot, when it's not for a paid job. I loved having it on my 6K Pro. If you're a Blackmagic user and you've been looking at this lens and you clicked on a red video for some reason, get the lens, don't worry about the camera as much. It's really solid there, and that video was an absolute blast to make. This one was fun too, but the snow is very cold and I don't know how people have the patience for walking back and forth in front of camera. Trying to get back into it in any comments or support or just talking about cameras with me is really appreciated and motivates me to make another video. Let me know what lens I should pair with the Komodo and take around the neighborhood the next time I need to drop off some film and get some cool visuals. It's really a cathartic process, but it's a lot more cathartic when the snow is not in my shoes. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'm off walkie. I'm talking this slowly because the first 5 times I tried to say something similar. How cold my lips are has made me fumble over my words too many times. So let's tell you all about the Tokina 11-16 that everything you've seen so far was shot on indoors. How did Casey used to do this? Guy's crazy.